the special bracha that everyone makes every single day during davening is Yotzer HaMoiris.
Right now, you're not on the screen. Oh, there you go.
Again? Okay, Chivrim, Hashem opens the eyes of the blind. Right. Right. When we're sleeping, we can't see. Right. Shekoyach, yeah. Someone who is blind, it cannot be about Torah, it cannot read the Torah. Similar how someone who's blind cannot be your taxi driver. Right? They can't see where they're going, they can't read the words. They could do the half Torah because it's not the same. They could do not the half Torah, the mitargim. They could be the one to translate because you don't have to look inside for translation, and it's not as special of a reading as a reading of a Torah. It's on a lower level. Now we'll return to the topic of a blind person. But first, we're going to go into a different subject. It's called a pecheach. Pecheach, the screen's a little bit dim today, but you have that's our drawing. Pecheach, whether it means either topless, sleeveless, wearing shorts. It is a issue to be a chazan when wearing shorts. Even davening, one should not daven while wearing short pants, while wearing a sleeveless shirt. Many Sfardim, they have like a special sleeve which they could roll up. They have a special tie that ties up to when they put on their tefillin. Someone who is not tznius, not dressed modestly, can they be chazan for Shachris? Can they be chazan for Shema? Can they be a Bal Koreh? Can they be the one to read the Torah? So here's what the Gemara says. Pecheach peris al Shema. Someone whose legs are exposed can be the chazan for Shema. Peris al Shema, for the partial Shema, meaning people get together just to say Shema b'tzibur and with the crowd, but not chazan of the Shemina Esrei, not a Bal Koreh. He cannot read the Torah for everyone. But he may do lesser things, for example, translating a Torah into Aramaic and saying blessings on Shema. Ba'minei Ula Barav Me'abaya. Ula Barav asked a question to Abaya. Katan Pecheach Mahu Sheikare Batorah. It is obvious that if you have an adult whose body is exposed, they cannot read a Torah. Because the Torah says, you should not have any nakedness among you. That's definitely they cannot read the Torah. A child does not have to do mitzvahs, and a child is allowed to get maftir, to say the Haftorah. So could a child read the Haftorah if they are not dressed in a sneeze, in a fitting fashion? In addition, it's very common for a child, for kids to walk around and partially uncovered, partially exposed. Legs are exposed by children. It's not so. Being as it is, maybe for them it is normal. It is common. Answers the Gemara. Can a child who has bare limbs, they're not wearing sleeves, they're not wearing shorts, do they fall under the category of erva, of someone who is unclothed and cannot say the haftarah, cannot say and shul? Obviously, you're talking about his private parts are covered, because that's for sure prohibition. But beyond that, if a child's wearing a bathing suit and a yarmulke, could they read the Torah? Omar Lei, Abaya answered back to Ula, why are you asking me just about a child who's not wearing clothes if they can be reading the Haftarah or the Torah and Shul? What about a child who is totally unclothed, not wearing anything at all? You can ask the same type of question. Is it only an adult who has this obligation to not have their naked parts of their body, their covered parts of the body being revealed, but a child may, or also a child should not. So to explain the reasoning, what was the answer? Think about it as someone who's not clothed at all. What is the reason that someone who is naked cannot read the Torah? Mishum kavod tzibur. Because we are concerned for the respect of the tzibur, of the public. It's not respectable that someone who is not wearing clothes, who is naked, should read the Torah. Hachanami mishum kavod tzibur. So too, when a child is reading the Torah, even if the child is under 13, but if they are a little bit unclothed, they're not dressed respectfully the way an adult is, so then the child cannot read the Torah. Any manner of dress which doesn't meet the standard of a shul, regardless of whether it's intentional, not intentional, it constitutes an affront to the respect of the tzibur, respect of the congregation. Halacha, in a place, it's first of all, it's a big deal. It is a halachic issue to be a chazan when you're wearing shorts, or even davening should not be like that. There are places in Israel they invented like shorts which have tzitzis. There are people, religious kibbutzim, that they work in the fields all day, and they have they wear shorts and they come together for mincha ma'ariv. So in a place where it's a total norm and there's no one else to do it, so then it's, I guess, permissible, it's allowed. But definitely when it comes to davening, one should be respectful. And even when you're own davening, when you're davening, especially in front of a king, even if it's, you could say, normal in the world to dress in a certain way, it doesn't make it the way that Hashem wants it in the Torah. All right, and yesterday we had a joke. There was somebody who was getting into a taxi cab, not wearing anything, and the taxi cab looked at him funny, and he said, "What are you looking at me funny?" He says, "Because I'm wondering how you're going to pay." So a Tiferes al Shema, a blind person is allowed to be chazan. For Shema, Rabbi Yehuda said in the Mishnah that someone who was blind from birth cannot be chazan because of the blessing that we say called Yotzer HaMa'oros. Yotzer HaMa'oros, Hashem who creates the luminaries, the sun and the moon, and they cannot see the sun and the moon. And therefore they cannot lead Shema, because leading Shema, you're saying this blessing of Yotzer HaMa'oros, Hashem who creates the sun and the moon, the luminaries to light. Musaf, that will be allowed. Talking about, right, Shema would not be allowed, correct. Halacha, they're allowed to even be a chazan for Shema. This is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, right? According to the halacha, the Chaim, the sages say that a blind person could be chazan for everything. What?
You cannot say it.
Again?
What I missed
Right.
about dividing the Shema. Is that the translator, or what does it mean?
Dividing the Shema. So if 10 people all davened individually, they already davened Shacharis by themselves, either at home or without a minyan, but now they gathered together. So then they could get together and daven parts of davening. The blessing of Shema, and the first 3 blessings of Shemoneh Esrei out loud, and they can answer Amen and Kedusha. So they do that in order to answer Kedusha together.
Is that what it means, dividing the Shema?
Yeah.
That includes.
Right. So right. So the method of how they divide the Shema, right, is usually they say either 1 or 2 of the blessings of Shema, not all of the blessings, but including the bracha of Yotzer HaMa'oros, Hashem who creates the luminaries. And they say Shema together, and then they don't daven a silent Shemoneh Esrei, but they go straight to the repetition of the Chazan, and the Chazan says only the first three brachas out loud, and they could say Kedusha. The point is that since they all daven themselves, they could not answer Kedusha. We want to answer Kedusha. When 10 Jews get together who didn't answer Kedusha yet, you want to answer it.
I think I used to go, I think in Israel, a few times when it was getting late already, they would do that. They would start, even though no one had davened yet, but they would start the first two blessings, everyone would say Kedusha, then.
So what does it mean to be blind? Blind, let's just give a perspective. The Gemara is going to give a very good perspective of what's the reasoning of the difference of opinion of the Chacham and the sages who say that a blind person could read Shema, could be the Chazan for Shema, and say the blessing of Yetzer Ma'aris. And Rabbi Yehuda who says they cannot be a Chazan for Shema because he cannot say the blessing of creating the lights. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Yehuda, the sages who allow a blind person to say the Shema to lead to be the Chazan, and they say, and even further, the Sfas Emes writes, according to Rabbi Yehuda, a blind person cannot even say it for himself, this blessing. He has to only answer Amen to the Chazan, but he cannot say it himself. The sages allow a blind person to be Chazan. They told Rabbi Yehuda, Har Beit Safu Lidrosh the Maaseh Merkava. The Maaseh Merkava, there were two places in Tanakh, one in Yeshaya, Isaiah, and one in Yecheskel, which describe the chariot of Hashem. It gives physical descriptions. Chariot of God, it had each one of the four sides had a different face and the four wheels, but it's discussing and describing the greatest revelations of godliness that a human being, besides for Moshe Rabbeinu, besides for Moses, and besides for the time period when they left Egypt, the highest revelation of godliness that a human has ever experienced here in this world. And it's called the Merkava. It's called the chariot. Of course, Kabbalah explains this at great length. Now, if someone is just reading it without any understanding of what it means, they're going to just think that it's like a nice, I don't know, a nice fable. Therefore, a regular person, an unlettered person, or a person who's just beginning to learn, is not supposed to learn or is not allowed to learn, according to the original Mishnah. You're not allowed to learn Maaseh Merkava, the vision of the heavenly realm of angels and godliness and chariots as it is in Yecheskel, because they're not going to properly understand it. The Brisa, the sages told Rabbi Yehuda, Har Beit Safu, many people have tried Lidrash Merkava to explain the vision of the chariot, even though they have never seen it. So it's possible to try explaining something that you've never seen. Correct? So therefore, even if the blind person cannot see light, let him say the blessing of Yetzer Ma'aris. Let him creating the lights. He could thank Hashem that the rest of the world has light. The light exists. Even though they never gazed upon those heavenly bodies in his life. The Gemara answers back. The Rabbi Yehuda says, Hasam ba'avanta deliba talya milsa. When it comes to Hashem's heavenly chariot, it's a prophecy, it's a prophetic vision. A prophetic vision
Rabbi, are you on mute? Should probably redial.
So when it comes to understanding the Ma'aser Merkava, the chariot of Hashem, the chariot of God, it depends on Avanta de Liba. It depends on one's personal understanding and concentration. And therefore, if you understand it, if your heart understands it, then it is possible to understand it without ever having seen it. Because the chariot of Hashem, the chariot of God, is not a physical thing. Hashem doesn't have a physical chariot up in heaven. Maybe in some form it is, but not in our understanding of what physical means. What it is a totally spiritual thing with spiritual concepts. And therefore, the chariot of Yecheskel is, if a person is able to be on a level to understand it, then you could explain it even though they have not properly, totally understood it, but they have the sensitivity that they're able to understand it. Halacha, mishum hana, when it comes to the luminaries, when it comes to the lights that are the sun and the moon, the reason why we make the blessing, Hashem, who creates the lights, is because you have benefit from it. And the blind person does not have benefit from the lights because he personally cannot see the lights. And it doesn't help that the rest of the world has benefit because it's a person themselves have to have a benefit from it. The Gemara now explains the rabbi's position that a blind person can say the bracha, can be the chazan for Shema, even though they're saying, even Yetzer Ma'oris, Hashem, who creates the luminaries. The Rabbanan Islehana Rabbi Yossi. The rabbis maintain that a blind person can make a bracha, can make a blessing of Yetzer Ma'oris, who Hashem, who creates the sun and the moon, because he does have a benefit, not a direct benefit, but an indirect benefit. The Tanya. For we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Yossi says, Kol Yamai Hayisi Mitztair. My entire life, I was trying to understand, I was trying to, I was troubled over the meaning of this particular pasuk, which says, V'hayisa, Pashas Kisavai, Memashesh Batzarayim, and you'll be Kasher Mashesh Iver Ba'afela. This is when Hashem says, this is the admonishment, the curses. And it says, if you not keep the Torah, this and this and this will befall upon you. And one of the things it says, you should be groping around in the middle of the day, like a blind person, like a blind person trying to feel himself, trying to feel the way in the darkness. Now, if it's dark, it's pitch black, even someone who could see, who has vision, can't find their way around. They also have to feel their way. They can't see their way around. Why does a verse, a pasuk say, like the blind person gropes around in darkness? Let it just say, like the blind person gropes around, has to try feeling around. What does it mean in darkness? Meaning that a blind person in the dark is in a worse situation than a blind person in the light. Seemingly, for the blind person, it makes no difference. Marsha explains that a person who could see, so that at least they're generally familiar if they're going the same path they always went. They know there's a road to the right, there's a building to the left. But a blind person does not even know that. Says the Brisa, what difference does it make to a blind person whether it is dark or light? For the blind person, whether it's light, whether it's dark, it's the same exact thing because they anyways can't find their way around. And he didn't, and Rabbi says, I did not understand this. Until one time a story happened with me. One time, I was walking in the absolute darkness of the night. Back then, there was no lighting on the streets, and you had to carry your own lantern. In some places, later times when fuels weren't plentiful, they would put on the big streets, they would put candles. Even in the U.S., the first time they ever had street lighting, I think, was in the 1820s, right? So there was gas lights, right? So I was one time walking in the absolute darkness, in darkness, night and deep dark. And I saw a blind man was walking on the road. And he was carrying with him a lantern or a torch. That's what the blind person was carrying, a torch. I told to the blind man, Bini, my son, why are you carrying with you a torch? Amar Li, he told me back, if I have a torch in my hand, B'nei Adam Rayin Oisi, then people on the street can see me. Matzilin Oisi, and they could save me min abchasin, min hakaitzin, umin abarkanin, from the pits, from the thorns, and from the thistles, or briars. Briar, it's a type of it's a different type of prickly plant. Thistles or briars. And therefore, I carry with me a torch even by night in case I meet somebody. Since a blind man can't have benefit from light, as this incident of Rabbi Yossi says, so therefore the blind man may be the leader of the Chazan of Shema and involves reciting a blessing of Yetzer HaMa'aris.
The Gemara has
The
been
Rambam
talking.
writes
The girl
that a blind person has benefit from others, from sighted people who could see. That's a different reason than this given this Gemara over here. There's a beautiful shot from the Baal Shem Tov on this, which is brought down by the Rugged Shavar Goin. Tzaf Nas Peneach. Rugged Shavar Goin is someone that was mentioned. Yossi, Shalom Aleichem, welcome, happy to see you.
Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi, thank you.
And I see you, it's actually sight, not just it's light.
Yeah, thank you, Rabbi.
Tzaf Nas Peneach, Rugged Shavar Goin, Rabbi Yosef Rosen, we described him, brought him down many times. Person with the rabbi with the long hair, passed away in the 1930s, was a tremendous Talmid Chacham. He brought from the Baal Shem Tov. It says in the Zohar that with every single letter of the Torah has Hashem's light. The 25th word in the Torah is Or, light. It says Hashem saw the light, kitoivu, it is good. And it says the light which Hashem created on the first day of creation is hidden. It will only be revealed when Mashiach comes. It is hidden now in the Torah. And for great tzaddikim, like a Maggid and Mezrich, the Baal Shem Tov, they're able to see throughout the entire world, or see the future using the light that's hidden in the Torah. But he says, if the light is hidden, what's the point of the light? And the answer is that there's some people which are called Einei Ha'eda, the eyes of the congregation, the eyes of the people. Now, a blind person, someone who's blind, when they carry a torch with them, other people who could see are able to help them to have sight. So in the same way, a person, people of the generation could be considered to be blind. We don't see, we walk around in day-to-day life, says about Shem Tov, we don't see Hashem openly, we don't see godliness openly. But we do have those who can see, which are the tzaddikim, the Einei, the leaders of our generation, which are the Rabbi, the Rebbes of the generation. And they cause that the blind person, that people like us, we don't fall into the pits and to the thorns and the thistles. And there are many people which, even though they don't have the opportunity to learn Torah, but they support those who learn Torah. Similar to a blind person, which even though they can't see themselves, but he's holding he's holding the torch in order that others could see and to save him. So those who support the Torah, if they themselves don't see the light of the Torah, but they help those who are learning Torah, and those people save them and protect them from all the pitfalls which can be in life, the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov brings us down as well. If you look interestingly, there are three descriptions for darkness. Ishoin, Laila, Va'afela. Three different types of darkness. Ishoin is going on your pupils, that a person can see with their eyes. Laila is not the person themselves can see, because if it's light outside and your person's eyes are closed, they also can't see. Laila is darkness. That's when the entire world outside is dark. Afela is deep darkness, absolute darkness, where there's no light. It's a cloudy sky. There's no moon. There's no stars, and that's pitch black. Someone deep down in a cave. It's called afela, deep darkness, in a tunnel. Rabbi Yossi says, I was walking where there's tremendous darkness. It's known that there is called Gimel Klippas Atmeis, the three levels of impurity which are impure, which of Klippa, powers of impurity, opposite of holiness. And in Chassidus, it calls it the Gimel Sarei Paro, the three officers that are mentioned in the Paro: the Sarah Mashkim, Sarah Oifim, Sarah Tabachim, the butler, the baker, and the butcher. And these are three levels of Klippa, three levels of impurity. And in the person, they correspond to three limbs: the Konev, Veshet, and Vridin, the ventricle of the esophagus, the food pipe, and the veins that they have in their neck where the blood goes through. And all three of these correspond to these three different types of darkness. And therefore, all he had to, in order to protect themselves, even though he was blind, the blind person carried a torch, and it saved him from Klasin, Koitzin, and Barkanin, three different types of things as well. One is a problem with the outside, that there's a hole in the ground. One is that there's a thorn, which is, let's say, a rose bush has a thorn here, a thorn there, one thorn on every stem, or few thorns, and thistles are full of thorns. Right? So all the light of the Torah is able to protect you from all of these levels, from all three of them. So that's a vart, which comes from the Baal Shem Tov. Right. I guess going forward, we Baruch Hashem, we finished Kunter Semayin. So we're going to do 2 days a week Halacha, Hilchos Shabbos, Allah's of Shabbos. It's a very good sefer, a good book. I am looking for it in English. I haven't yet found it in English. It's called Kitzer Halachas. It's the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch the Alter Rebbe. Just bringing only the the bare points that are needed in the Shulchan Aruch of the Alter Rebbe for Halacha L'maisa to know what the Halacha is, because the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch is there to make to add a special point. Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch filled a very vital need, which was not in the Shulchan Aruch itself. And over today and tomorrow, we'll bring a few examples of it. But let's go back to the beginning. What is Shulchan Aruch? In the introduction of the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, his sons, the 3 sons of the Alter Rebbe, when it was published, they describe what's the specialty of the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. You already had a Shulchan Aruch written before. It's very interesting. You had the Vilna Gaon, the Gra. He lived in Vilna. He was the foremost leader of the Lithuanian and the opponents of Hasidim. And he wanted very much to write a Shulchan Aruch, a code of Jewish law. His sons asked him, "Why? What are you waiting for? Why didn't you do it?" And he said, "Because I have not received permission from Shemayim, from heaven, to do it." That's what he said. He's waiting for permission from Shemayim. Now, the Vilna Gaon was a tremendous Talmid Chacham, tremendous Torah scholar. Till today, the entire many schools of thought all come based from the Vilna Gaon. Many schools of Torah learning, and at the same time that the Alter Rebbe wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he was thinking of writing the Shulchan Aruch. Now, when the Alter Rebbe wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he was commissioned by his teacher, who was Rebbe's teacher. His Rebbe was the Maggid Mezrich. The Maggid Mezrich was himself a tremendous Talmid Chacham, tremendous Gaon. His students were the greatest. 120 students of the Maggid Mezrich were the greatest Torah scholars of the time, rabbis of great communities and cities. And nevertheless, he chose his youngest Talmid, his youngest student, which was the Alter Rebbe, to be the one to compile and to write a Shulchan Aruch. The words that the sons of the Alter Rebbe use was that Mishmaya eskimu al yadei, from heaven, they agreed to the Alter Rebbe's writing, and was accepted all over the world. Now, the Radziner Rebbe, Rabbi Yerucham Leiner, he says even that the sons and the grandsons of Vilna Gaon wrote that the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch was accepted all among the entire Jewish nation for Halacha. Now, the Vilna Gaon, he was the greatest opponent to Chassidus at that time. Many say that he was uninformed. He was being told slanderous things, that's definitely true. But in addition to that, he also refused to meet the Alter Rebbe. He was the one who signed the Cherem of Chassidim. Cherem is not an excommunication of a carp. What is it? Cherem. You see his word excommunication, but a different word. But to put the Chassidim, are not part of the Jewish nation, and you cannot have any connection with them. Right? This is the girl, the Vilna Gaon. And he said about himself, he wasn't given permission from Shemayim, from heaven, to write the Shulchan Aruch. But to those that he was persecuting, him and his camp were persecuting, they were given permission and given the task from Shemayim, from heaven, Alter Rebbe, to write the Shulchan Aruch. What you see from there is Kollel b'reach min hakavod, somebody who runs after a honor, a position, and runs away from them.
Do you accept that? The
Yeah, his sons and his grandsons write about the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch that it's accepted all over. His grandsons write that. And until recent times, until after the war, Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch was the de facto accepted Shulchan Aruch that people followed when they wanted to check the Halacha. The Mishnah Brura from the Chaim is now, it became much more popular after the war, and I think primarily because that was what was in print at the time. Right, the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch was not in print at that time, or after the Holocaust, after the war, and it took a few years to start printing it again. But so that's when the Mishnah Brura really gained in popularity. But from the times of the Alter Rebbe and onwards, till Second World War, it was the primary go-to source of halacha. And even today, it's a go-to source of halacha. Every halachic place where we have the Alter Rebbe, it's taken into big consideration, or halachas like that. In addition to that, also the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch is missing many sections. They were lost in fire. There were many fires in those days, and many of the writings of all the Rebbes, Alter Rebbe, Mittler Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek, were all lost to fire. Publishing then was very, very expensive, difficult. Publishing took a long time. It's not like today, where you could take a picture with your phone of someone's handwriting, it types it out for you, and you, while you're on your phone, you send it off to be printed in India or China or somewhere else, and then it shows up to your house a month later. It wasn't like that. Every single letter had to be type locked.
Excommunication, sure.
Excommunication, but Rabbi Karp said there's a better word. Excommunication, he said, is a word from the church. There's a better word for it.
Excommunication.
Yeah.
So how's this set of halacha is different than the Mishnah Brura?
The Mishnah Brura is a pirush. It's an explanation on the Shulchan Aruch. So let's go through a little bit of history of Shulchan Aruch. And we have, I guess, maybe tomorrow we'll go through the Shulchan Aruch. What is Shulchan Aruch? We have the Gemara. Shulchan Aruch is a set table. It's a day-to-day halachas laws. We have the Gemara. That's a writing. Why not rule paskin straight from the Gemara? Well, I think all of us could see, and we're learning the Gemara. There's about 5 opinions for every single thing. So you can't really rule straight from a Gemara. You can't know what to do. So throughout the generations, you had the Zkainim who codified the mitzvahs. And eventually you had the Rambam, who was the first major codifier, one who put together the halachas, laws. And he did it in the sefer called the Mishnah Torah, which is a Rambam that we learn every day for those who learn Rambam. And it goes through the entire Torah, all 613 mitzvahs. The Shulchan Aruch that we have doesn't go through all the mitzvahs of the Torah. It only goes through mitzvahs that apply to us. Everything that happens in the Beis HaMikdash is not in Shulchan Aruch, and only things that could apply to us nowadays are written in Shulchan Aruch. But the vast majority of mitzvahs of the Torah, over 400 mitzvahs, 450 mitzvahs, are not even mentioned at all in the Shulchan Aruch. The Rambam was the first one to go through the entire Torah, writing down the halachas. A little bit at the same time period, you had 2 other great people, a little bit after the Rambam, but within the same century. You had the Rif, Rabbi Yitzchok Alfasi, which is printed in the back of most Gemaras. He goes through every Gemara and just takes the halacha out of it. So he goes in the order of the Shas, the order of the Gemara. You had the Rush. Also, he goes in the order of the Gemara. The Rambam was revolutionary and unique in the idea that he did not go in the order of Gemara. He did not go in the order of the Torah. Rather, he went according to topic, and he explained every halacha in its place and in its spot. The Rambam wanted to make his sefer, his book, that every single person could learn it, even a child, and every Jew could learn it. And therefore, the Rambam is not in depth. Rambam has other Sfarim which are more in depth, but the Rambam, Mishnah Torah, the halachas are not deep. It's factual, and he also doesn't go into reasons. He says a halacha, and his opinion is, and he doesn't bring any reasons for it. What the Rambam did, he had 14 books, and we're actually making a conclusion on Rambam, learning of a daily Rambam in another about 2.5 weeks, for those who learn 3 chapters a day. To write, the Rambam did what was necessary at the time. The Gemara was written because that's what was necessary at the time. The Mishnah was written because that's what was necessary at the time. These are all part of Chelek Torah Shabbat Peh, the oral Torah, which you're not allowed to write down. But when people are becoming more or less and less scholarly, knowledgeable, and they become more and more reliant on what's written down, and as time goes on, most people are not able to understand the halacha straight from the Rambam or straight from the Rif or straight from the Gemara, and you have to, as time goes on, you have to write new Svarim. The Zkainim wrote many different Svarim. The Rambam was the first one to write down from the entire Torah, taken from everywhere, the Gemara, the Midrashim, the Bavli, the Yerushalmi, and the Rambam's tremendous wisdom, and he put the entire Torah into Psak Dinim, Piskei Dinim, rules, laws. However, even in his introduction to the Rambam, he himself writes like this, that since I do not put the reasons over here inside, it's very possible some people think they understand everything and they don't really understand. So the Tur, Rabbi Yaakov, the Baal Turim, the son of the Rosh was the son-in-law of the Maram Rothenburg, right? The mayor of Rothenburg, the one who was arrested and was only released about 14 years after he died from prison for a ransom. His son-in-law was Rabbi Usher. He was originally in Germany. He had to run away to France because of the persecutions of the Jews. And his son was the Baal Turim, Rabbi Yaakov, the one who wrote the Torah. He divided the entire halacha, all the laws, into 4 sections, and he codified it in a very orderly fashion. However, even the Torah is extremely succinct, extremely short. Ashkenazim generally followed the Torah, and Sfardim generally followed the Rambam. And that was sort of the division, what was going on at that point in history, Jewish history. Sfardim followed the Rambam. We're talking about 750 years ago, and Ashkenazim followed the Rosh and the Torah. Now, another big issue was, this is before the printing press, correct? So not everything got around to everybody. So still in many places, people were ruling according to their own understandings. They were making different halachas, or people didn't know the reasons of halachas. So then came Rabbi Yosef Cairo, born in the 1480s. He lived a very, very long life, to the age of 94, extremely long for those times. He was expelled from Spain with expulsion when he was a young child, I think of 3 years old. He was many years in Turkey, and then he went to Tzfas. Tzfas, Seifen. And the Yosef Cairo, he was in Tzfas together with, Tzfas was then a city of great people, the Arizal, the Arizal, the father of Kabbalah, Shlomo Alkabetz, the one who wrote L'Chadoidi, Manas Halevi, he wrote the beautiful Pirush on Mesechta Megillah and the Megillah. You have Shemakabetz, you have other great luminaries, other great Torah scholars, all were in Tzfas at that time. The Ramah, Moshe Cordovero, a different school of Kabbalah, and Rabbi of Cairo, he was from Shemayim, was given a task to write the Shulchan Aruch around the same time period as him. So we're talking about the 1500s, the later 1500s, second half of the 1500s. In Poland, at the same time, there was a young, brilliant Torah scholar. His name was Moshe Isserlis, the Ramah, and the Ramah also started writing a Shulchan Aruch. All the laws put together in a very orderly, concise fashion way. First the Ramah started writing a explanation on the Rambam, and right before he's finishing it, Rabbi Yosef Cairo finished his Pirush on the Rambam called Kezav Mishnah. So then he started writing a Pirush, an explanation on the Torah called the Beis Yosef, and right before he finished, the Ramah started writing an explanation on the Torah, and the Beis Yosef finished his and came to Poland as he's in the middle of writing his explanation on the Torah. Then the Ramah started writing the Shulchan Aruch, and right before he finished, the Beis Yosef finished writing his Shulchan Aruch. Rabbi Yosef Cairo finished writing it. So he ended up writing what's called Hagois, notes on the Shulchan Aruch of the Rabbi Yosef Cairo. And there's back and forth. Each one, has a comment on what the other one says. Unfortunately, the Ramah Moshe Isserlis passed away at a very young age in Krakow at the age of 36. He wrote a tremendous amount, did a tremendous amount for, especially for the short life that he lived. And what follows is that the Sfardim followed the Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Cairo, who was a Sfardi, and the Ashkenazim followed the Ramah. So generally, halachas are the same. When there's a difference, when the Ramah would disagree, he would write that as a note to Haggah, called the Mappa, the tablecloth, to the Shulchan Aruch, to the set table, and he would make his comment, or his halacha should be different, and therefore Ashkenazim always typically follow the Ramah. Everything good, we have a Shulchan Aruch, everything fine, right? Why does Alter Rebbe have to come and write a Shulchan Aruch later on? We'll get to that tomorrow, and we'll bring together some examples of differences or what the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch will bring the Shulchan Aruch, and I'll bring the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch. We're able to see the difference, what the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch comes to add on, and what this edition we're learning is going to come to help us, to assist us in learning the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch. So with this, we'll pause today. Shkoyach everyone for joining.